Facebook. I want to jump on here and just share a conversation, kind of the overview breakdown of a conversation that I had today on a Zoom call with somebody who's currently in the shift. He's a PTA and he's working in an outpatient ortho clinic, and he's only about a month and a half into the shift. And so we jump on the call and I said, "So what's new?" And he said, "Well, I quit my job." I said, "All right, so what happened? Did you already have something lined up? What are you doing?" He's like, "Nope, I just couldn't take working in that environment anymore." So a lot of you are in this group because you're frustrated with the broken medical model, and a lot of you are students who are not looking forward to getting out in the real world. Many of you are out in the real world and feeling like this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I went to school for, and I need to get out of here. So this guy got to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. So he's working as a PTA in a clinic where there's 5 therapists, and sounds like he's got some autonomy, but the therapist that he follows mostly does nothing but dry needling. So he's been watching my content on YouTube and Instagram and trying to implement more 180 system thought processes, which sounds like the main therapist was totally fine with. But it was getting to the point where this PTA is now having the issue with the ethical dilemma that you're posed with in a conventional PT clinic, where you're doing things that at best don't work, at worst make people worse, and you're trying to do what's best for the patient and be ethical about what you're doing, but you've got a boss who's saying you have to bill 4 units, and the only way you're going to be able to bill 4 units is to do some kind of unassisted modalities, stimulation, something like that. So he's got this problem. You're supposed to bill this much. You're supposed to see this many patients. It doesn't matter if they're not getting any better. As long as they feel good when they leave, we're happy. But now there's an alternate method that would actually get them functional benefits, that would actually use science and physiology instead of just covering up symptoms. So what do you do? So in this case, he got to the point where he couldn't do it anymore. So he basically said, "I'm leaving. I'm taking 3 months." So he's basically going to take a 3-month sabbatical so he can finish the shift, get through lab weekend. And I'm going to tell you one of the problems that he's having and why we're going to solve that pretty quick. So he's basically going to get through the shift, go through lab weekend, and then go back and say, "Okay, here's what I was trying to do. So here's his problem, and here's your problem as you're going through the shift, and you're trying to stop, fix the ethical dilemma of doing things that don't work. So you're trying to take things out of your toolbox." So he told me today, "I have this gigantic toolbox and I don't think any of it works." So I said, "So here's what you need to do, and here's what I would have, if we could have talked about this before you quit, here's what I would have said. Systematically take things out of your toolbox that are detrimental." So you might not think that therapeutic exercise is detrimental. You might think that's okay, so stick with that. But stretching, massage, foam rolling, orthotics, those things are detrimental, so take those things out. When you get through the shift and when you get to lab weekend, after lab weekend, now you'll have tools to replace the things that you're taking out. So his main problem right now is he doesn't have anything to replace it with. So if he took out all the tools in his toolbox that he knows were detrimental, that's probably going to get rid of half of his toolbox. So what is he going to do with this patient to keep his boss happy that he's getting 4 units and he's seeing this patient for 45 minutes to an hour, or he's doing unattended modalities, he's only seeing him for a half an hour, but they've got unattended modalities that he can bill for. If he had something to replace it with, then problem solved. Okay, so we talked about how he could do exercise, and he brought it up and he said, "Well, but I already learned, and you'd already said, and I already believe that if you're doing corrective exercises with people that have inhibition, you could be making them worse." And I said, "You're 100% correct. But the safe exercise that you could do with them that won't screw things up, it might not fix anything, it might fix something, but it won't make things worse, is doing isometrics. So you could sit there and do isometrics with people, and isometrics take quite a while. So he doesn't know the NFTs. He doesn't know the palpations. He knows when he watches people, he sees things that he thinks are off or wrong or inhibited. He sees them complain about symptoms at a certain range of motion with a certain activity. So what I told him is, what you could have done is just said, okay, well, let's just break that down into an isometric at that angle. So we're just gonna do graded isometrics, 5-second hold 5 times for all the things that I think I saw you struggle with when you were doing those things. And then he could actually follow that up with, okay, so let's retest that, or let's do an exercise and see if range of motion increased, strength increased, stability increased, and complaint of symptoms or discomfort went down. So that's what he could have done, okay? So this is not an out of the ordinary situation. So this happens all the time. I've had other PTAs go through the program. Halfway through, they're getting rid of things, they're doing things differently. The therapist, the lead therapist is confused. Why aren't you doing what we do anymore? Why are you telling them not to stretch? Why are you not foam rolling anymore? All that kind of stuff. So now, as he's going through this, he's getting more information as he goes through the shift so he can defend his thinking, but he can't defend it all the way. So that's kind of another problem. So what I told him was, good news is you only live about an hour and a half away from my clinic. So what I want you to do is pick a day where you can come hang out with me for a half a day, come hang out. You can see things put together in real time. So you're not taking bits and pieces off of social media and trying to figure out how it works together. I'm gonna show you what it looks like, all put together. You can hear me do patient education. I'll walk you through my thought process so you can actually see what's going on here. So as you're going through the shift, you've got kind of a jump start to putting things together so you're not waiting all the way until lab weekend. So good news is, sounds like it was not a bad breakup when he left his position. So it sounds like the boss, the head therapist, the director of the clinic basically left the door open and said, well, when you're ready to come back, talk to us. Let's see what things look like and see what we can do. So my bet is once he comes in and observes for a half a day, watches me see 8 patients, hopefully there's an eval or 2 in there. He listens to patient education, sees it all put together, understands where isometrics fit in, understands where reinforcement exercises fit in, and then he's got more tools to start using, and hopefully he can go back to his job. And then, because it sounds like some of the people there might be open-minded. So I said, so the one therapist that you're working with is that guy. What about the other 4 therapists? And he said, well, it sounds like every time that they come in the break room to do notes, it's like a big sigh, and he can tell they're getting burned out. They don't love what they're doing. They're just going through the motions. So I said, well, so here's the cool thing. After you get the thought process down, or more information about the thought process, you have some of the tools. You can go back and say, okay, guys, what if you tried to do this? And then you can pitch some of your thinking and say, and the best way to do this, if you're in this situation, if you're in a clinic and you're trying to implement 180 thought processes and strategies, the best way to do this isn't to lecture the other practitioners, therapists, aides, whatever. It's to ask them questions. What are you doing when you do XYZ? Most likely, they're not gonna even know, other than, well, that's what I've always done. That's what I was told to do. That's what the patient asked for. Terrible answers, okay? So then what you can do is circle back and say, well, this is what I do, and this is why I do that on a physiological level. And then you can come back and ask, what do you think what you're doing is doing on a physiological level? Again, they're probably not going to know. They're just gonna have to wing it and make something up. And usually as they're trying to make something up and think through what they're doing, they come to the realization on their own that what they're doing is not a great idea, okay? So the goal is to give them information, have them weigh that against what they've been doing, take apart their thinking, hold that against what you're doing, compare the two, and they come to the conclusion on their own, oh, what I'm doing doesn't make sense. Tell me more about what you're doing. Let's try that. I want to see what you do. Walk me through that. That's how you get into people, and that's how you get them to change what they're doing. So you have people that you're working with that are in your community, on your team, okay? So if you're going through the same struggles that this PTA was going through, it's normal. Don't freak out. Understand, if you're going to take something away from a patient, you have to give them something to replace it. So I don't ever tell a dancer, you're not allowed to stretch, you're not allowed to get massage anymore. I say, here's what we're going to do instead of what you've been doing, and this is why we're going to do that. Okay? So take something away, give something back that's the alternative. If you're having conversations with people that are hard-headed, understand, they don't know what you know. They don't see things the way you see things yet if you've been watching my content and you're trying to apply that stuff. So you can't get mad at them. It's not their fault that they don't understand what's going on and they're doing crap treatments. It's just the way the system dumped them into it. Okay. Now, after you explain that to them and after you say, watch Rhett's stuff and ask me questions and do this and do that, if they just put their foot down and say, screw it, I don't believe in anything you say, then it's their fault that they suck. But up until the point before they get the information, it's not their fault they suck. It's school's fault. It's the system's fault. It's the boss's fault. It's the mill's fault. It's insurance's fault. It's all that stuff mixed together. But most importantly, school didn't arm them with what they needed to have in their toolbox when they left school. Okay? So have conversations, pitch ideas, ask them questions so that they have to answer the question and think about what they are doing and what they are saying. All right? So hopefully you don't get to the point where this guy got to it and he was just like, screw it, I'm out of here until I get done with the shift. I don't even want to see anybody. So if you're at that point, reach out to me, let me know how you can survive another 2 to 3 months in your job so that hopefully you can implement what we're doing with the shift, get some other people on your team in your clinic. And then what I told him is, tell your boss, I might be, when I start doing 180 only, I'm not going to be charging 4 units, but the units that I'm going to be charging are going to be reimbursed at a higher level than unattended modalities. So not only am I going to be making you more money per unit per time, so I'm making you more money per hour, I'm also going to help your clinic increase its caseload because people are going to come here and say, I talked to so-and-so and they said, you've got somebody here that's doing this crazy thing that got them better in 2 visits where I've been going to PT for 6 weeks and I haven't got anything. So I want to come see you. So you're going to drive their income up by making them more cost effective on their treatments, reimbursement, and increasing patient caseload by word of mouth referrals. This isn't going to be, you need to spend more money to go out and market. This is word of mouth referrals. Show up at the clinic and say, I want to know what you're doing because I keep hearing about you all over town and I want to know. Okay. So if you've got questions, DM me, ask me. Hopefully you didn't quit your job already. And if you did, at least this guy has a good relationship. And my inference is, my bet is he will be back at that clinic somewhere between 2 and 4 months from now. He will be killing it, and he will be another PTA that is outperforming the lead PTs. And eventually at some point, they're going to have to say, teach me what you're doing.